Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another fun-filled episode of WrestleZone Unfiltered. Joined by always the one and only Canada's greatest export. Yep, that's you, man. Paul Rogers. Paul, how you doing tonight, man?
I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good. I don't know why I spaced out there for a moment. Pressure's on.
No, never, man. It's the holidays. We don't have any guests this next upcoming weeks for for the holidays. Take a little bit of break from that. And coming to you next week, just before I forget, programming update, Thanksgiving here in the States anyway. I'm not sure what you guys think going over in Canada next week, but
we've already did it. It's like time travel. We already had our turkey.
Yeah, we got Thanksgiving coming up next week, so we will be here on Tuesday next week, and we'll keep you updated with any other changes. And how's your week been? Any Hindu squats? Any bumps this past weekend?
Oh, no bumps this week. Oh my God. I think I injured my arm somewhere, but it's one of those petty injuries where it doesn't hurt until you pick up something heavy and you go, ooh, okay. What have I done? So now I'm just figuring out if it's one of those I need to see a doctor or it'll work itself out in a few days.
Yeah, I'd give it a few days, and then if you don't, then go see one. That's normally the way I've always handled things, but I'm not. I've never been jumping around in a ring.
We're not in our 20s anymore. We got to be careful with these little things.
Yeah, speaking of heavy stuff, you see these speakers behind me. I finally broke down and bought some new speakers because and they're very light, they're very compact, they sound amazing. Because the ones that I've been using, the ones I've got are really good. I've got a couple of sets, but they're the kind you see people put up on the speaker stands. Mm-hmm. And them some bitches are about 60, 70 pounds a piece to pick up and put on that stand. These right here, they they come apart, the columns come down, they store right in the back of the sub, and they're 30 pounds a piece. And you don't have to lift up and put them on anything. They sit right there on the ground. Yeah, those came in yesterday. Those for any of you with children, when they become grown children, you can buy yourself stuff for Christmas.
What? Oh. So instead of buying them toys, you buy yourself toys?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I should have started this a lot.
So you didn't have a show this past weekend?
No. It the company I'm working for is slowing down for the holidays because the guy's got a lot going on, and hopefully I'm back to school as soon as the work picks up. And it's one of those it's like you got to think of it, wrestling's kind of has its waves, you know what I mean? So don't stress out if there's a lull, because you never know, 3 weeks from now you're gonna be back on a high. So
yeah, we were talking about that with Curtis last week, or the week before. My weeks are running together, about how the wrestling business has changed. But because you and I talked about it too. Thanksgiving, Christmas, man, those were the days, man. Sometimes they'd even do 2 shows. Yeah. And the original Survivor Series that's coming up, that was on Thanksgiving to combat Starrcade. Christmas night, that's what they moved Starrcade to after Vince created the Survivor Series. I mean, that was holidays were big paydays for the boys and girls back then.
But is that I hate to say it's different now, but back in the 80s, those events were a lot more family focused. Like, you'd get people driving in. Like, I've only heard of stereotypes about the South, about these massive, get-togethers of all these huge families. But then taking those 30 people to the wrestling show, now you got a packed house easy because everybody and their grandmother has flown in for Thanksgiving.
Well, the one thing I'll give Vince back in the 80s, he was family friendly. They pandered to the children. And that was smart. I mean, that's the toys and everything else. But, I get, I live in the South. I'm from the South. And yeah, a lot of families would go. But, the NWA, Mid-South, they were not kid friendly, man. Those were bloodbaths those people were putting on, man. And if you took your kid to it, that was on you. I mean, Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes in particular, and they weren't the only two, but they were spitting out pints of blood every night. And so yeah, I mean, family friendly back in the days to a point, yeah. But I'm also glad for the guaranteed contracts they have these days. It's you'll see coming up during December that SmackDown and Raw gets taped because they'll do the Monday, and then so I think SmackDown actually does the taping right after on Friday, but they'll do a Raw taping on Monday and then the live one as well, so they can have the following week off for Christmas and they come back first of the year. And everybody's a lot of those people are young and they got young children, and good for them, because You know, I mean, look at all the old school wrestlers. I mean, Dusty was only married twice, but you got Flair who was married, 85 times under Sunday. All
It is comedic when you say only twice, but yeah, when you compare it to Ric Flair, yes, only twice is
well, I mean,
amazing.
take Ric Flair out of the equation. Hell, Michelle McCool's is Taker's third wife since he joined the business. So it wasn't just them. I mean, believe it or not, Shawn Michaels has only been married once. He's still married to her to this day. But I mean, that was tough. I mean, when those guys were gone 300 days a year.
Well, every episode of Dark Side of the Ring basically begins with they were beat up on the road in a hotel on drugs and blah blah blah. They were drinking. You're like, oh my god, what's going on? This is
and not to take this in a different way, but you talk about with the marriages and stuff. Those guys are getting panties thrown at them every night on the road like that. And that, back in the day, calling them the ring rats because they had one just in about every town. You've heard these stories told. But on the flip side of it, I'm sure that those women were not, living the celibate life, while they were gone. Or they go out with a girlfriend, have a couple of drinks, and human nature has needs, and
I think some of that might have been as soon as cell phones had video cameras. That's when that all ended. Because I could understand, because back then there was a bit of secrecy. Right now, it's anybody. I can start filming, you having a love affair, not where you're supposed to be, in 2 seconds. I think you hold the button down, 1, 2, boom, it pops up. I think that's what killed it, because you hear all those stories of back in the day, and you go, "Yeah, a single cell phone would destroy."
When all that first kind of started. That's like I said. Me DJing in a strip club. Every time they would come into town, we got several of them that would come in, and once the internet started becoming more relevant and everything, and the cameras in everybody's hand that you're talking about, that's when WWE put a squash on that, and we're like, no, y'all can't do that. You can go to the Waffle House if you want to.
You just can't be openly ridiculous, especially if you're higher up on the card. Then you can't, like John Cena can't yell at a kid in public. I know he did in kayfabe, but like if he were in public in a mall, I know, okay, for the millennials, malls are things we used to have. But if there was a video of John Cena just reaming into a kid, that'd be it. That'd be his whole career, like done. Not his whole career, but it would kill all of it,
I don't know if you ever heard Flair tell the story about, his second wife, which he was married to for 27 years. And that was Charlotte and Reed's mom, Beth. Little history buff there. And, but, they were married. He said the reason they stayed married so long was because he was on the road. And he said, that he would get home and everything would be fine. But, his other wrestlers have talked, Arn Anderson in particular, about Flair loved being on the road. And that when they had a little bit of time off, it's like he was so antsy being home, it was killing him. He wanted to get back out there, and how everybody's talked about the schedule of the NWA champion, that they said everybody, even Harley, did not like it, but Harley tolerated it more than a lot more, but he didn't embrace it the way Wick did. And he said when he finally retired, in the way semi-retired, whatever the hell you want to call what he did, and he said then he went home. He said they realized they didn't like each other, and they've been married 27 years. He said he'd never been home. He said,
like this might not be the most respectful comparison, but I feel like, now I'm forgetting the name of the movie, but there's a lot of stories of veterans coming home from war. And now that they're not in a war, they're like, they feel an unease. Rambo, the first Rambo movie, there were, you know what I mean? He was struggling. They were struggling. There's mental health stuff, but to me, it's like a similar mindset where your brain is settled on this certain kind of commotion, this certain kind of chaos. And without that controlled chaos, you start to like spiral in a little bit. You're like,
you hear that a lot, when for marriages that have broke up with service men and women, because when they come back, their partner tells them flat out, once they've, I don't want to say had enough, but they just tell them they're not the person anymore that they married. They've changed. And, whether it be the PTSD or, the constant 23 hours a day running on 1 hour of sleep and, keeping one eye open, looking over your shoulder at all times. I mean, that does change people, and it's sad. I mean, you could have people that, that were meant to be whatever you want to call it. And, because they became a boxer, they became a wrestler, they enlisted in the service, and they went their separate ways, and a lot of times you'll see them. They like Jake Roberts and Cheryl. That's a prime example. They after so many years they came back together, but she couldn't tolerate his drugs and his infidelity and all that stuff when he was on the
That's sort of
road.
almost the best example of someone who's got like shell shock from wrestling lifestyle is Jake Roberts. That's such a good, because he's like he reflects on it now as this is his whole problem.
Well, I don't know if you ever saw it or not, but he actually, one of the many times when he tried to get sober, he was actually going on that 700 Club show, on whatever religious network that was. Used to be ran by.
I feel like I remember this, but it's such an old.
Yeah, Sting was on there too years ago, and it was like the old story of Sting is like when him and Lex, when Sting decided that enough was enough and he was gonna be reborn and join his brother's church and everything and devote his life to Christ, he went home and told his wife at the time everything he'd ever done. Only problem was, him and Lex, of course, mended fences and they're back together and all that stuff. But the problem with that was he told his wife everything that Lex had done and was doing as well, who then in turn called Lex's wife at the time. And you can see how that went,
That's a bottle you don't open. You say that's not.
And Lex said he looked at him. He said, "Damn, man, I was happy for you, but you ain't got to go and bring me into it."
Yeah.
He goes, I have to atone for my sins. I don't need you pushing them in front of me. But and Lex has done that as well. Lex is a great comeback story. So everybody talks about just what a pleasure he is to be around. So
tangentially, but have you seen DDP's new show yet?
No.
Neither have I. It's only just popped up on my radar, and part of me went, "How did this get past me?"
I didn't know he had one. What is it, and what's it coming?
Okay,
on?
So it's on Tubi. I'm pretty sure everybody gets that. I'm just confirm. Okay, it's called Change or Die. There's one season of it on Tubi. .com. There's 9 episodes. They're trying to see if it says how long. I think they're probably 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, but I'm sure you can probably find it on YouTube as well because Tubi's a free app. So
yes, and there's probably whatever the equivalent is for your local area. I know there's like TiVo and a bunch of different other ones, but it's got Buff Bagwell, it's got Butterbean. I'm just going over the little the icons or whatever, but
yeah, Butterbean's one I forgot about that he actually did a lot for and got him up and walking again.
Oh my god, to see the before and after is scary in the sense of like there's a lot of potential in these folk that you don't think have potential.
Well, it's like the first guy that that he really pushed as a advertisement success story, whatever you want to call it, is now one of his trainers. But that dude, he was so large he couldn't move. He started out on the bed doing stuff that Paige was telling him to do, and now, like I said, now he's one of DDP's trainers. So, and
honestly, people will poo-poo it and say, "I don't know, that's a little too." Do the bed yoga. That's all I suggest, because there's like everybody is sort of like, "Well, I'm better than that," but yet you don't actually go and do anything better than that. The bed yoga is so good. Like I found his program. I looked up his you can go to, I think it's like ddpy.com or whatever, something like that. But I was like, this is actually really good because you just kind of pop your back in the right spot 2 or 3 times and you're off to the races.
Yeah, I've done it a few times and need to be a little more responsible and proactive and do it every day or every other day or something. I just haven't. But it's like the old saying is, you got to help yourself, and until you get up and do it. I don't know. I mean, but I'm not, there's so many stories. I mean, Chris Jericho is an example. Jericho was, his back was really bothering him, and he thought, he had kind of resigned himself that he was going to have back surgery and retire. And he said he talked to DDP, and Paige convinced him to do this first, and he said, he felt so good. He said he never had to have the back surgery, and he's still wrestling to this day thanks to DDP. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that, even Kevin Nash does the DDP yoga and talks about how much it's helped him continue to be in the gym and stay his cut the way he is. The yoga is not cutting him, but it allows him to go do the other stuff that allows him to maintain that body.
The big stereotype I like now when I go to different gyms is there's a sort of stereotype of older guys that are be trying to be athletic, and when they warm up they do like stretches to like look like they're stretching, they do a little bit, do a little, but that's all they do. We can now spot them and spot who the people who really train are in that 5 minutes, because the people just 1-2, those are people that aren't getting the right things. But when you see that 50-year-old in the back doing the like twisting triangle and he's holding it, you're like, that guy knows what he's doing, and that guy's probably a danger on the mat, because then he starts getting all those twists out, getting the knots out, and you're like, uh-oh, this guy, you know what I mean? You can spot a lot of this stuff now in the first 5 minutes of going to the gym, which I think is immensely interesting.
Well, yeah, I would be I don't know, I'd be remiss if I didn't I don't know what you grew up watching. What was your go-to wrestling as a child? What would you watch?
As a child, okay, so from what when I start remembering it all is basically the Hogan heel turn.
Oh, so
that's what I remember. But as a little kid, it was golden era. It was 90. I would have been 5 in 93. So
okay, and the reason I ask is, everybody says when you hear people talk, they like JR and Tony are the voice of their childhood, and yeah, they were around when I was younger, but the voice of my childhood was Bob Caudle.
Ooh.
And Bob Caudle passed away yesterday at the age 95, the voice of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. And I tell you, the first thing I ever went to was a 2003 or 2, one of the two. It was a Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Legends Convention at Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was me and a buddy of mine, and you'll get a kick out of this.
Mm-hmm.
We pull up to the hotel, and, it was nighttime, and we get out, both of us over 6 foot, both of us about 250 roughly. And we both had long leather coats on, sunglasses on top of our head, grabbing our rolly bags out of the backs. It was, 3-day weekend. And this little kid goes, "Dad, what tag team is that?" And it was all we, Chad and I, could do to keep from laughing. I'm like, But so fast forward in the morning, we're down there walking around. They open up the doors to go in, and when we went in, I came talking to them. We went in. They've got the Mid-Atlantic music playing, and Bob Caudle and David Crockett are sitting up here on the stage with mics going, "And welcome everybody to another exciting convention of Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling." And I looked at Chad. I'm like, "Dear God, I'm 8 years old again." And but it was a ball. And Bob Caudle, he's one of the few old school guys you don't hear anybody say a negative word about. Just they said the guy you saw on TV was the guy that was behind the curtains. He would help anybody. Even Tony gave him a nod last night, saying what a thrill it was when he first started to be able to be on the mic beside Bob Caudle. And, like I said, it was just 95 years old. He lived a long, prosperous life. And, he got a nod from everybody that ever spoke about him. And, I know he was never in the WWE, but there's a lot of people in that Hall of Fame that have never been in the WWE. And Bob Caudle should, he should have a place there. I can't remember if they put Lance Russell in or not, but if not, Lance Russell and Bob Caudle are two that need to go there, and they can just get rid of that entire whole fucking celebrity wing as far as I'm concerned.
Get rid of all of them and put in Cyndi Lauper. That's all I'm caring about.
Didn't they put her in last year?
If she's not in, I'm still very upset.
Well, it's like, some of them had fun with it. Our good old friend Donald Trump had fun with it. Snoop Dogg had fun with it. Ken Rock had fun with it. But Drew Carey was just creepy when they inducted him. He's like, he got up there to accept his award, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really know why I'm here." And I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah, and that's why I think I just Googled it quickly, WWE Hall of Fame Cyndi Lauper, and it's like all of articles of like why she's the forgotten hero and why we want to see her. And WWE Hall of Famer wants to see Cyndi Lauper receive her. So she does not have her Hall of Fame, and that's come on.
I would be curious, and I'll tell you why. when I met the Honky Tonk Man years ago, it was before he actually broke down and went in. And I said, dude, why the hell ain't you in the Hall of Fame? You're still the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. At the time, he still was.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, because I keep telling him no. I'm like, huh? He goes, that weekend, he goes, we have the ability to make a lot of money. And he goes, they want to take up your entire weekend. He goes, I might be wrong on my figure. He goes, but I think they wanted to offer me, to pay for my hotel, which was a shitty hotel. It wasn't a nice one. And he goes, like $4,500 for the weekend. He goes, we have the ability to make, $30, $40, $50,000 just in that little weekend. He goes, they wanted to give me $4,500 and take up my entire time. He goes, I told him no. And
well, that we can sort of tangent this into a modern conversation that I've seen people talking about recently, but there is sometimes a lot more money in independent wrestling than there is in the lowest peg of the big leagues. Because I know somebody was talking recently about they were breaking down an NXT check, and you would make this much money and you would make blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wow, I can see now why someone like the Young Bucks might say no. You know what I mean? It's like who were you talking about? Sorry, again? Because you had a good example.
Which one?
The person who didn't.
Honky Tonk Man.
Honky Tonk Man. He can still work, quote unquote. Like, I've seen his semi-modern matches. All he does is punch people and, hype up the crowd, and like he can make a lot of money.
Little neck breaker action, and it's over.
He doesn't even bump for his finish anymore. The twist and shout doesn't even bump for it. Perfect. Let's go home. So why, it's a weird perception thing. Why would someone like him want to take the hit? Just
now, see, if you're talking about the Honky Tonk Man, it is not the twist and shout. It is the shake, rattle, and roll.
That's what it is. Thank you. Sorry. Because the twist and shout is the Hiroshi Tanahashi move, but I always got them. It's a similar spin, so that's why. Yeah. But I believe Natalia was talking about her and Tyson's Kid's original contracts years ago, and how much money it was per week, and it was like, yeah, I could see why someone, if they've got some years in the business, might say, yeah, I'm not going to NXT.
Well, it's we'll go back to Ric Flair. When he retired. They kept him on, and they wanted to do essentially what Titus O'Neil's doing now, that ambassador role. And he agreed to it. And it was a $250,000 a year contract, which to you and I is like, hell yeah, we'll do it. Come on. But then that, it was also worked out to whatever that he could do like different things as far as like conventions and stuff like that. And he was being promoted to be put in the NWA Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And the promoter spent a lot of money advertising him and everything. And at the last minute, they pulled him. And it pissed him off. And, he was talking about the little guy and this, that, and the other, because, that's what he came up on. Damn, excuse me. My allergies are killing me, this weather change. But, and it pissed him off. So they had their little pissing contest and went back and forth. And they said, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. He's like, all right, bye. And his thing on it was that on a low end, just doing one signing a week and not like the full Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He said, just going on Sunday or Saturday, excuse me, he could make $10,000 a weekend, which is $40,000 a month. And then, it's much more than, $250,000 a year.
Some people do $20 to $50 for a signature. How many signatures can you do in a day if you have the lineup, right? Like the potential of money is out there if you got the right conventions and know where to go.
And you have that name. I mean, I would hate to be the guy sitting like on the other side of a Flair or a Sting or somebody like that, and they got this long ass fucking mile line long, and they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs, going, "Yeah, I was on a '90s sitcom. You remember me?"
I was just thinking. Imagine being one of the like Power Rangers, not even one of the original ones, just one of them throughout the years. Hey, I'm the green one from 2007. Everyone's like, what? And then 100,000 people walk in for Ric Flair or like there's a lot of them that do the old conventions, and I know this because the Virgil one's always empty.
All right, he gonna kill me if he's listening to this. My one of my sons, he's 30 years old. That's what he does. He helps run these cons and put these cons together, and he helps bring in some talent. And when he was younger, he was a huge Power Ranger fan. He loved the Power Rangers when he was a kid. And
what kind of person likes the Power Rangers?
And then he got to talking, and he started representing one. It wasn't one of the originals. It was one of the Lunar Wolf Rangers, and I forgot what color he was.
Is it Wild Force or something?
Yes, that's it. There you go.
Oh my god!
And so I knew he watched them all when he was little, so I knew that had to be a thrill for him. And well, then the guy came down from I think he lived in Texas, or that's where his parents lived, and he started staying on and off with him a weekend here, a weekend there. And now the dude lives there. And before I ever met him, I was thinking, he was probably around Christian's age, roughly, give or take a couple of years. I get over there and the motherfucker look older than I am. I mean, he a few years younger than me, but I was like, God damn, how old is he? He's like, oh, he's like 47, 48. I'm like, oh dear God, looks nothing like his pictures. I mean, nice guy, don't get me wrong. And Drew, if you're watching, I ain't trying to shit on you. But I mean, it's just, but that's what he does. That's all he does. He doesn't work. He just goes around, 2 or 3 of those shows a month and makes his money with autographs and taking pictures and stuff like that. But, again, and we'll use him as an example. Can you imagine being, because he's not, God rest his soul, but he's not Jason David Frank, who was the biggest, popular of all time. He doesn't have that kind of fan base. And you're him, and you're doing your thing, talking to people, whatever, and you got 3 people in your line. There's Ric Flair or Sting sitting next to you, and you can't see the end of the line. Like, I'd be going, hey man, can you move me? This is kind of embarrassing.
Can you tell them I was your manager in the 80s and see if I can
like do something, man. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, that convention I went to, tell you another funny story about that convention, because I didn't recognize him at first. And I don't know if you'll get the reference or not, but we're walking around and I hear this guy behind me going, come on, man, do it. Yeah. And the guy went, no. And I stopped and I turned around. I looked, I said, Chad, look. He said, what? I said, that's fucking Jimmy Garvin. He's like, oh shit, it is. And if you've ever seen Garvin, it's gorgeous Jimmy Garvin with that big ass 80s permed out hair. That was his thing. Yeah. It's not my fault. And, and this dude, I mean, I turned around because Jimmy Garvin was always in great shape. He had the big old Arn Anderson belly going on. He had his spectacles on and no hair, but like the horseshoe thing going on. And I'm like, it took me a second, but I was like, holy shit, that's Jimmy Garvin. Well, but that guy was like, come on, Jimmy, do it. And he's like, no. I was like, man. But you talk about, go back to get Jimmy Garvin. How much world class? Do you ever go back and watch any world class?
Actually, yeah, I found some on the Internet Archive. They have an entire year. So I started just like popping in and around and watching some of it. And it's a totally
if you ever get on the cock and search the WWE library, they have world class on there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It was actually on the WWE. It was they had bought all that stuff before they made their agreement with the cock to move it over. World class, AWA, Smoky Mountain, Memphis, all that shit. It's all on there. But Jimmy Garvin's original valet was a girl named Sunshine, and they were great together. Great chemistry. Don't know how they got put together. I'm sure I could find it online if I looked hard enough on how they wound up together. But then they went into a storyline to where he brought in another one that was supposed to be her valet. And of course, that doesn't really work out. And world class played it up.
Nesting dolls of wrestlers.
Yeah, well, they played it up and they went to, like they had a camera go out to Jimmy Garvin's home, and, Precious answered the door. And, later you learn down the road, not like in the storyline, but you learn later down the road that Precious is actually his wife. And that's why he wanted to bring her in to replace Sunshine. And again, Precious wasn't bad, but the original package, to me, my opinion, was better than him and his actual wife. but they've been married for over 50 years, and God bless them both of them being in the wrestling business, especially he was on the road without her for a while and being married over 50 years. Jimmy and Patty, go ahead. You tip my cap to you.
Well, this is what a lot of people talk about healthy relationships, like finding someone on the same wavelength. So if all these wrestlers are on this wavelength and their wives are not, that's bad. But if you actually find someone that's like, no, we both love this. We both love road trips. We both love arenas. We both love then all the power to you. That's exactly what you want. Well, hopefully that's what you want. It's not 16 divorces, but
but for every precious Patty, whatever you want to call it, that you have, then you have your runs of Sonny's and Missy Hyatt's, and who just jump from one to the other in the locker room. And if the stories are to be believed, AJ Lee made her way around the locker room before her and CM Punk winded up together. So
I think this is my tinfoil hat. I'm going to put it on to make sure everybody knows. Maybe I'll get a physical one just for the bit. I'm going to put it on, and I'm going to say, I think everyone in pro wrestling has done it with each other. Because do you know about the Olympic Village? And do you know how many condoms are sent to the Olympic Village during
I'm sure.
Because these are all very attractive people, and even the people who are not traditionally attractive are still pretty good looking. You know what I mean? Like, well,
you want to hear like what actually made me become a Ronda Rousey fan?
Okay, let's hear it.
I don't remember who she was doing an interview with, and she was just starting to come up and get a lot of traction in the UFC. And I don't remember who was interviewing her, but they're going through and they're talking. She seemed very personable, and they're like, "Well, do you have any pre-fight rituals?" And she's like, "Huh?" Like, a lot of the guys like to do, they have these pre-fight things they like to do to pump themselves up and, get ready for the fight. And she's like, I'm not really sure I can say that on air. And he's like, no, you know what? This is my show. You say whatever you want. She goes, I like to have as much sex as possible, before I have to go out there. And he's like, whoa, hello, Miss Rousey. I'm like, yeah, that's my girl. Get him.
That's how she got that name. Oh my God. It's a brilliant gimmick. See, that's a woman who's been working a gimmick this whole time, and we had no idea. And
that dude she married, God damn, he's huge. He's like 3 times her size. I can't remember. He's a fighter, but he's not well known. He's big dude though.
It's like that's the perfect level of fame. So you can be sort of famous, but you can still take your kids to preschool and go buy groceries and.
Well, Ronda Rousey's one of those, in my opinion. She has the ability to look just absolutely gorgeous. And then you'll see her in other pictures with like her hair pulled back and no makeup. And it's like, is that Randy or Ronda?
Well, I think it's like this we can talk about gimmicks, because it's like, I think she looks better when she has no makeup on and when she's got the ponytail. Because to me, it's like, well, that's her. Like I can just. I
agree. I'm not talking about that when she's fighting. I'm talking about like this. There's been pictures floated around that, I don't know if they caught her first thing in the morning or what, but it's like, damn, is that the same person? Holy shit.
Oh, it's like, look at what's her name, Flair. Because I remember someone said Charlotte Flair's back, and I looked at the TV and I went, yeah, but who's this?
Well, we talk about marriages. She's doing her damnedest to catch up with her daddy, and she's a lot younger than he was when he hit them. She's done Manny Andrade, whatever you want to call him. He was number 3. So, and I think Rick was married 5 times.
Not to dive into these, we've already dived into a few heavy topics, but it's like she did an interview not too long ago where she like was so open about this. And the road and wrestling and them. And I was like, this is really introspective. I didn't expect it from a Flair to be open emotionally, especially in public on a camera. But it's like, good for you being aware. You know what I mean? Being self-aware, at least knowing you're a Flair, knowing what's going on, knowing in wrestling. But yeah, she talked openly about it, and boy, that was
and I'll tell anybody this. For anybody, I'll make jokes about it, but for anybody that wants to judge it, when you're on the road away from your spouse and working in different companies as they were being married, no, it doesn't happen with everybody, but there's about 75% of performers, whether it be athletes or, I mean, you see cheating scandals with athletes all the time. When you're around people all the time and you're spending that much time with somebody in particular, I mean, this is a horrible example, but I'll bring it to, Kevin Sullivan and Nancy. Kevin was an old school booker, and the way her and Chris winded up getting together was when they got paired together on TV. Kevin, being that old style booker, says you have to travel with him. It has to look
his own divorce is what they say.
It has to look real. You got to travel with Chris, and she got something apparently she liked better. I guess I don't. It's horrible the way that turned out, and then you had all the damn stupid ass wrestling fans going, "Oh, I bet Kevin Sullivan." Shut up. It's like, are you serious? Are you just wanting attention? I need to know what kind of mental midget I'm dealing with here. And and Kevin, out of respect for her family, Kevin didn't comment on it for like the first 5 years, and then he finally did. The first time he ever spoke about it was on Jericho's podcast. And but yeah, I mean, when you're around somebody like that all the time, I mean, it's human nature. Shit's gonna happen. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it, but put yourself in their position and see how you do.
And it's a weird psychological observation, because this reflects on a lot of different things. There's a big period of a boom because we've made it to the arena, we did the show, we're at the bar after, we've gotten the girl, but now there's a road trip, so there's a big lull. So it's like they try to pack in as much as they can into these big humps, because they know, oh, tomorrow we're on the road, we gotta do how many miles and so many hours, and boom, we got to be to Florida, and we got to go. So there's like a weird, we got to get all we can.
Well, and then you take the over, even though their schedule is not what it was, when I grew up, but when they go overseas, they're still over there for a week to 2 weeks at a time. And, you're on an airplane for 15 to 18 hours with the same person you've probably connected with as a friend. And you got somebody to talk to, but then you get over there and you're in Rome, you're in Paris, you're in London, and because that's your buddy, y'all go walk around and see the sights together and all that kind of stuff. I mean, shit happens, man. I don't know how to say it. Hi, Riley, how you doing, sir? We just kind of bullshitting tonight because ain't a whole lot going on. We got the holidays coming up, and
it's a universal sort of expression, because there's a Tetsuya Naito in Japan, his stereotype for his faction, because they all travel together, he drives the van. They have he's got a mom van that he drives so it's the same no matter where you are. I guess in smaller countries you don't get as much flying, because it's like, well, we can just drive. It's an hour or 2 hours to the next show, but like Canada and the States are massive, so if you got to go from one end to the other, it's a long ass time.
I don't know. That's a good. I actually sent Connor a message earlier tonight, Riley, and I hadn't heard back from him. So I don't know. We'll see what we can put together, and
we'll do some year-end awards if you're looking for something like that.
Well, you said you had full gear pulled up, so let's go ahead and dive into that.
It's one of these tabs here. Okay, so we'll start at the bottom, work our way up. Hopefully this is updated. The Saturday Tailgate Brawl: Eddie Kingston and Hook versus Anthony Hendry.
It should be the Acclaimed.
They're higher up on this. They're in a 4-way. What? Why is it? I don't know why they're doing it like this.
That was. I don't know if you saw it. It was been a couple weeks ago or not, but
sorry. No, I think the Saturday Tailgate Brawl is just the name of their pre-show.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
there's a couple of things in AEW going on right now that I kind of get a kick out of, and guys, that girl's name Lexi Nair, is that the backstage person? Not Renee, but the other one.
Maybe.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. She was back there a couple weeks ago with Bowens and Caster, and they were going back and forth, and he said something about I forgot what Caster said, but but then he started putting Bowens over, saying that he that something about everything that he did. And then he looked and he said, and this guy here is always, at your fan fest and doing this and doing that. He goes, I'm not doing that shit. He goes, you can't have this thing he goes, we both deserve to be there. And then, but they're also arguing with each other at the same time. And they're like, well, I can tell you, we're never teaming again. He goes, well, at least we can agree on something. The Acclaimed are dead. And that little girl was like, hold on. She does a little earpiece thing. She goes, I got word from Tony Khan that says, if y'all are going to be there, you're going to wrestle as a team. And they're like, no, we're not. And in case they start going back and forth. Tony said that the ratings are better when you're together. The merch sales are better when you're together. And he, the Acclaimed right now are much better as a tag team. And I think what they're doing is entertaining. And I think what the Bucks are doing right now is telling a really good story. They have slow burnt this, putting the Elite back together for a while. Last night was no different. Don Callis trying to get them to join the family and trying to get them to give the EVP trigger to Kenny, and they're just standing there. And it looked like they were going to do it, but they hadn't completely. They had the boo boo face on. If you know what I'm talking about, they kind of and there comes Jurassic Express out to save the day, and they're slow burning the Bucks with the Elite, and the back and forth with the Acclaimed. I think has been very entertaining as well. So, but yeah, that's who are they wrestling on the pre-show?
Which team? Sorry.
The Acclaimed, Bowens and Caster.
This website is telling me they're in a 4-way match. Big Bill, Brian Keith, Juice and Austin Gunn, Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd. And
the Outrunners.
They are in a 4-way match, and it says here the winners get $200,000. Which gives perfect sense for a heel to want to team with a face, because it's one of those, I'm not teaming with him. What about if you won 200,000? I could potentially team with someone if that's
the match with the Bucks this coming week and one on the pay-per-view is them and Josh against Kenny and Jurassic Express in a $1 million match.
See, I like this. I know I think people, whenever I say this to people say it's that's too shoot of a thing. But in theory, the reason people wrestle is money. That's why, you know what I mean? It's the reason you're a welder. It's the reason you're a firefighter. Maybe not a firefighter. That's a bad example. But, there's a reason people do what they do. And it's normally because they're getting paid to do it.
See, this is before your time too. But, back when I was growing up, one of the things that they would always do was like when they did a battle roll. There was always a battle roll at a house show. And it was a $10,000 battle royal. And, I told you, I got to go every time they came. And at the Philadelphia Collinsville High School gym one night, a very young Jake the Snake Roberts, he was not Jake the Snake yet. He was simply Jake Roberts, wearing black trunks and regular boots. And he won the battle royal. And when they presented him with the check, my grandma sitting right beside me. My mom screams out, "I want it!" And he looked right at her because it was maybe 10 feet away tops, but he turns around and looks at her, takes the check, drops it in his trunks, and goes, "Come and get it." Remember that like it was yesterday.
Do you remember one of the original rewards for a ladder match?
A ladder. No, the first ladder match that I ever saw, and this is going to be sad, but the first ladder match I saw was Shawn and Razor for the
one of the earliest ladder matches I ever saw, which was in Stampede Wrestling, was $500. And this was like the 80s, so $500 is a little bit more than $500 now. I think that
I agree with you.
A couple grand.
It's like we've talked about with some of the issues that I've had with AEW. Is it's not the entertaining of the match. It's like, what did this guy do to you? Why are you going to that extreme to try to harm this man when they just threw the match together? So if you've got a $200,000 prize, then there's your reason.
It's easiest reason in the books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Money, especially for a heel, because then you can wave the money physically, and the heel will go, "Oh, I guess I got to do worse now."
It's like, the old, when Bobby Heenan was managing Big John Studd, and he had the $25,000 body slam challenge out there, and Andre slammed him and was throwing the money out and grabbed the bag, had the bag of money and throwing it to the fans, and then they come running in, and Studd hit Andre, and Bobby grabbed the bag and they ran off. So, but no, I mean, like I said, just give me a reason that that they're gonna do a Canadian destroyer off the top of the ladder through a table. Put their, not only to injure their opponent, but to put their body at risk as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because tonight on Southern Championship Wrestling, we got Wild Bill versus Sexy Steve, mid-card match, but they're out there
killing each other.
Yeah, barbed wire baseball bats, and they'd never stepped in the ring together before.
Well, okay, so this becomes a philosophical thing, because I've found this in wrestling, because there's a lot of people that look at you as a wrestler and go, okay, what are your moves? What's your shine? What's your comeback? What's your bing bang boo? They want moves. They want sunset flip, suplex, power bomb. That's what they want. But if you say, look, my moves are kicks, punches, lariats, forearms, like I'm a wrestler, that's my move set, is I'm a wrestler, they look at you confused. And part of me goes, okay, but I'm not the one trying to do a Spanish fly off the top rope to onto the floor. I'm the one going, yeah, but if I just hit you as hard as I could.
Ready? Hey, kid, what's your finish?
What's your finish? I love
I'll move.
I love
that was the old thing with Harley Race back in the day. They said when he was wrestling somebody for the first time, so, Harley, they said Harley chain smoked. He always had a cigarette in his hand, and that'd be, hey kid, what's your finish? And they'd tell him, and he'd take a big old drag of a cigarette, and I'll move.
When we're talking about the Acclaimed, going back to that, I don't know if I would say they're better together. I think right now the act works best playing off. They have such insane chemistry, so it's hard to move them apart, right?
Well, it's like I told you last time we brought them up, is I would be really curious as to whether this was the plan all along, or just where they both kind of bombed. Anthony Bowens looks great. Anthony Bowens is in amazing shape. He's an amazing athlete. But, neither one of them could really get over. I don't know why. I guess that's what, they took Billy away from Anthony Bowens to see if he could get over without Billy or whatever. But I don't know if this was the long-term story, was to make them both flounder and bring them back around.
I think it might have been a test that went
poorly.
Because they're up here. They're up here as a tag team. But when you take them apart, they're kind of down here. So it's like,
yeah, when you take them apart, you put them in the ring as the Acclaimed, not just Bowens and Caster, but you put them in the ring as the Acclaimed. Depending on who they're wrestling, you're not really sure.
Is that comedic because their dad that they had been given was Billy Gunn, the guy famous for being better in a tag team than being on his own? Like DX, possible. Billy and Chuck, like. These are massive teams that are remembered fondly. But when you say the one Billy Gunn, what comes to mind?
Well, he did win the Intercontinental title, and if I remember correctly, he did win King of the Ring.
And they turned his King of the Ring win into, I believe it's called they verbed him, where it's like, don't Billy Gunn it now. And it's like, oh, don't, that's bad. I think Edge said that. And it's like, it's funny, but no, don't say that. That's not good.
But yeah, like I said, I would be curious if this was a long-term story plan to come back around, or if it was just like, hey guys, both of you are, I'm not saying that we're done with you as a singles, but let's put it back together. Let's get you back up here. And then instead of splitting you up as you're fighting, we'll start, once the team is back up here, then we can start here and there.
wiggling you guys back into place. Because honestly, if they can do the whole story where they just realize, yeah, we're better together and we can do more together, and then that turns into the heel. A different person can then become a heel, going, "Why am I not good enough?" Blah blah blah. There's something there, but while they're there, they have a lot of tag teams that they can help get up to their position as a tag team.
Well, I mean, that's been the case. I mean, for forever and a day. I mean, even the Road Warriors as singles. I mean, nobody really cared. I mean, they would go out there and, of course, maul somebody, but they would wind up losing.
It doesn't,
whether it was against Flair or whatever. And then, I mean, take the Bucks. I mean, if okay, you can put Matt or Nick in a singles match, of course, they're the, whatever. But if they split the Bucks up and they've got the, I think the best tag team that has done decent for themselves away from each other would probably be the Hardy Boys, in my estimation.
Yeah.
Because, Matt did real well with that Matt Hardy version 1 gimmick there for a while. And then when he came back after the whole Edge Lita thing, he was really hot. Of course, Jeff won the WWE title. And I can't think of another tag team that actually split and had that much success. Jeff, of course, he was better liked by the fans, and of course reached the WWE title. But Matt still had a decent amount of success, and he was, he did win the TNA World title as well.
Yeah, I'm going through like my big list of names, and it's like, no, there's always one that will shoot up, and the other one that'll kind of flounder, because you're like Harlem Heat, well, Stevie Ray, like there's.
Well, I mean, you look at the Rock and Roll Express, as over as they were as a team, and Ricky Morton was the heart and the glue of that team. Very charismatic, could wrestle, could sell. And when Robert got hurt, even Ricky Morton couldn't get over as singles.
Well, look at now, no offense, but the Dudleys, because Bubba got over crazy. He's great. Devon is sort of a mechanic. Like, he's great for when you need him. Like, you can slip him into any match and he'll knock it out of the park. But is Devon Dudley bringing asses to seats? You know what I mean?
Well,
it's one of those.
I don't know who you want to give the credit to, but when they split them up and he did the Reverend Devon gimmick and had Deacon Batista with him, yeah, that was horrible. But Bubba wasn't doing anything on the other show either.
Well, I was gonna say Bubba had, like, he did better in TNA.
Bully Ray, no, he got way over as Bully Ray. I agree wholeheartedly. And that goes back to Vince probably did not give him the opportunity to go out there and get over.
But even Bully Ray's was good in ECW because there was no limit. You could just bully Bubba, whatever, go be you, and piss off some white people. That was Jack.
Then you got Shane Douglas, who couldn't get over in WCW, couldn't get over in the WWE, was huge in ECW. But if you take the good looking girl with a thong running around away from him and the ability to say fuck, what was Shane Douglas?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot.
Well, as soon as he couldn't complain about other wrestlers because the other wrestlers were in the company and made more than him, he couldn't. Because he had a lot of great promos cutting down other wrestlers, but it was like, fuck Ric Flair, blah, 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 blah. You can't do that, when you're Dean Douglas. You know what I mean? So all his fire and all that energy he had knocked out from underneath him with the gimmick like that.
Well, do you remember when he quit WCW?
Would that be like late 2000s? That era?
No, this was back in the early 90s before he went to
WCW. No,
when he still had the short hair. Well, I can't remember who they lost the belts to, but him and Ricky Steamboat were the World Tag Team Champions. And they lost the belts to somebody in a cage, but it wasn't Shane. They had put Tom Zink under a mask, and for whatever they put them both in a mask, and of course Ricky took his off. And they were saying it was Shane Douglas, but it was Tom Zink. I don't remember who they lost to, but the reason for that was a very green, mean Mark Callis, who was no longer part of the Skyscrapers because Danny Spivey had left, was wrestling Shane Douglas. He was managed by Teddy Long at the time. And Shane was not real high on Teddy Long because he used to be a referee. He had just finished up being a referee and started managing the Skyscrapers when Danny left. And when he got to TV, He looked at Shane. He goes, "Yeah, you're going to go out there. You're wrestling Mark tonight. About 3.5 minutes. You'll take the heart punch, and Mark goes over." And Shane said he looked at him and said, "Who the fuck are you to tell me what's going on?" And not, Flair was the booker at the time, but he didn't. This is why him and Flair had so much heat. But and Rick didn't know about it. The funny part, but he said he went to somebody else, and they told him to go see Jody Hamilton. For those of you who don't know Jody Hamilton, that's the father of Nick Patrick and the one of the assassins. And he said he went and found Jody, and he said Jody wouldn't even turn around and look at him. He said Jody was sitting at the table writing, for the show. And he's like, Jody, I need to know what the hell's going on. I was told by such and such, this is what was going to happen. He goes, then I got, Teddy back there telling me that I got to lay down for Mark to the heart punch in 3 minutes. He's like, that's the finish. 3 minutes, you lay down to the fucking heart punch. If you don't fucking like it, you can fucking leave. And Shane was like, I said, this motherfucker, all right, bye. He goes, and I left. He goes, that's when I left. And but I mean, it worked out for him. I mean,
it's like, to be fair to him, I have a similar anecdote. I can't, say all the names and whatever, but I was somewhere where one of the people in charge started yelling at their ring crew, and the people like yelling, inappropriate yelling. And I was sort of like, yeah, I don't think this is the place for me, because I was, like, I don't, there's some people, they have this bone in their body, and the bone says, you don't talk to me like that. Absolutely. And every so often that bone pops up. So I could totally understand that person going, yeah, no, I don't appreciate how you're speaking to me right now, and I'm going to take it out on someone.
Well, I guess if it might have been, and this is not something Shane said, it's just me spitballing. But if it had been somebody else that he had to get in the ring with, that he thought maybe he could just do whatever he wanted to, and they couldn't force him to do a 3-minute finish, maybe he went out there and made an ass of himself and gotten fired. But being as he was getting in the ring with a very young Mark Calloway, who was almost 7 foot tall and 330 pounds, it could have probably squashed Shane like a grape if he wanted to. He probably chose discretion being the better part of valor at that moment. So
this reminds me actually of, do you ever watch that Wrestling Bios YouTube channel? And it's usually a lot of like history. This is what happened, then this happened. He has 2 matches that he covers, and it's like someone tanking a match. So I think one was the Bruiser Bros Bruiser Brody versus Lex Luger, and then the other one was like Alex Wright versus, forget the other person's name. But yeah, it was so interesting that like mid-match, one of the people in the match go, I'm not doing this anymore. It's so I wish I could find the other person now, but
that was like one of the things they said Dick Murdoch used to do. And when first time I ever heard this, I laughed my ass off. That was funny. Said he wouldn't do it on TV. They said he did it once on TV and got his ass chewed by the booker in the back. But Dick Murdoch being, Dick Murdoch, especially in the 70s and 80s, they said on non-televised shows, he'd go out there against somebody that he should have beaten very easily. And what he would do, in most, not squash matches, but, enhancement talent versus a veteran or established talent, they try to do a roll up here and there, do, something to take a quick part in the match. They said Dick would let the guy roll him up, but Dick would lock him to where they couldn't let go and let the ref count 1, 2, 3 on him. And he said, then Dick would go to the back. What the fuck you trying to make me look bad? And just, and everybody knew it was, it was a rib, but they said this poor guy standing there going, oh Lord, I'm getting fired. Oh Lord,
I'm dead. I've just done the thing they told me not to do. Yeah, no, I could totally see that, because it's weird. Some wrestlers don't like wrestling. Like, it sounds weird, but if you told a wrestler, hey, no one's watching this, there's no cameras, there's nothing, you could let this guy roll you up, and it would be like an urban legend. Hey, were you there the night that the 1, 2, 3 kid beat Razor Ramon? No, that never happened, dude. If you were there for that, that's That's magic of wrestling, can like in a weird special moment. I would totally encourage that, because that kid, okay, totally a rib on the new person, but there's going to be a kid in that crowd that treats this like the greatest urban legend they've ever seen. I'm telling you, I was there one night.
Well,
Mikey Whipwreck beat Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm telling you.
It was years ago on the tape Saturday Night's Main Event, and because the Rockers never held the WWF Tag Team titles. Now Shawn Michaels held it with Austin and with Diesel and somebody else, I think, but the Rockers never did. However, they did
Did
beat
Al Snow and Marty Jannetty ever hold the title?
Doubt that either.
Sorry, go on.
They it was a Saturday Night's Main Event taping. It wasn't live because it used to come on whatever, but they beat the Hart Foundation to win the tag team titles.
Mm-hmm.
But during that match, the rope broke, and it was just the rest of the match was absolutely just piss poor horrible for two of probably the best tag teams in the past 40 years. And so even though the Rockers went over, they didn't keep the belts on them and acted like it never happened. So can you see, being in that crowd and then seeing TV the next time going, wait a minute.
But in
they got beat the other night when I was there.
But in theory, though, that's how you try stuff, especially back then. Hey, let's have the Rockers win tonight, and we'll listen to the crowd. Because if the crowd explodes crazy, they'll go, okay, this is something we got to do. But if they do it 1, 2, 3, nope, back it up. Like, why not try some stuff, especially if
that was kind of the angle that Goldberg went at it from when he wanted to put Bobby Eaton over in his hometown. It was not. It was a non-televised show, but Goldberg was on that undefeated streak, but he really thought a lot of Bobby. Bobby was one of those trying to help him, and Bobby was past his Midnight Express days. He was, he'd win occasionally, but he'd adapted more to the jobber role, and Goldberg's like, but it's Bobby. Let me go out there and put him over. And they're like, are you fucking stupid? We got you undefeated on TV. He's like, yeah, but it's Bobby. And I forgot who Bischoff said finally got through to him. Oh, it was Bobby himself. He said Bobby come walking over. He heard what was going on. Bobby come walking over and patted him on the back. He said, man, it's okay. I've had my fame. It's time to lift you up. He said Bobby reached up and kissed him on the cheek and said, come on, big man, it'll be all right. He said, but Goldberg legit during his undefeated time wanted to put Bobby over in Alabama.
And well, it's one of the what do they call it? Mo money, mo problems. You can be this crazy star, but you cannot do these little things that you would like to do because you're on top. Like I'm enjoying right now. New Japan's doing a lot of these really small shows, like really tiny. We're trying stuff out. We're doing weird things. One show, they let AI run the show. I think it's just pretend AI is running the show, but they gimmick it up and they have fun. It's like you can lose on one of those shows and it doesn't matter because it's like non-canon. Like, when you read comic books and then you read a special comic book and you go, no, that didn't happen in this. The Dragon Ball movies.
Show that reminds me of the Raw anonymous general manager with that stupid ass computer they had sitting out there for a while.
So that was dumb. I hated that. But the way that they did it in the Taiji Ishimori shows was like it would try to mess with the wrestler by adding weird things in. And because it was an AI, it was weirder. Like, not, you know what I mean? They would show pictures. Japan usually shows these warnings like, don't videotape the matches, don't throw stuff. Like, it's just general, like, being polite Japanese stuff. But they gimmicked it where it was an AI photo, so all the words are wrong, all the people look weird. This is fun. You've gimmicked it up. You made it an hour and a half, 2 hours. Get in, get out, sure. But like,
what made me mad?
Goldberg, can you lose on one of those shows? You know what I mean? Like,
but you know what pissed me off with that? Because I agree with you. That anonymous GM shit was just ridiculous. But I dealt with it.
It was too big.
Well, that's what I put up with it in hopes of to get a payoff from it. Like somebody was going to come back, or somebody from TNA was going to come in, or just a big reveal. Like when it was finally time to reveal the anonymous GM, it was going to be one of the people out there that he was just going to be he was just going to crack.
Here, remember when there was a consortium? I hope I'm using the right word. Right, I used one word and you knew exactly what I meant.
Yep.
Because that's how you do that. We're building this person. We're building this person. Well, guess what? This person was here the whole time.
And but do you remember who that Raw GM turned out to be?
It was Hornswoggle.
Hornswoggle, yeah. Something you had built up for a minute for months that you could have done this huge payoff and started the feud with. You're going to play this and Hornswoggle did anything. I mean, the guy did anything they asked him to do. This is not against him. It's just you had this thing going on for months that you could have got a huge payoff from, whether it turned out to be somebody that was injured coming back or somebody that you're bringing back in.
Even bring in like an old vet like Paul Heyman, some like Eric Bischoff, like one of those
anybody. Yeah, like I said, that was something they ran for so long. There could have been a huge payoff from, and they turned out just to make a fucking joke out of it.
Now, if they had tried that on one show and seeing if it played out, that might have been different. But they stretched that for a long time, and that's when it
went on for like 8 or 9 months that thing was out there.
No, and that's why I feel like some of these ideas are more digestible if you just do them for the one night, like because then as a viewer you can go, they were trying something. Remember when Sammy Guevara came out with a panda head or like a bear? God. He's trying stuff. It's okay. He did it once. He didn't do it again. I can forgive him. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of that in wrestling. I'm allowing you to try
they got him and Roosh now, as the ROH tag team champions, which I think they're entertaining, and you never see him on TV. Every once in a while.
I think Ring of Honor's got a sort of curse right now, but
all right, let's get into these last two things and call it a day. So go ahead, let's go with this AEW Full Gear card, and then we'll hit Survivor Series.
It's like, oh, I just bloody had this thing open. Okay, here we go. Okay, at the bottom is the pairing of, it says Eddie Kingston and Hook versus, oh yeah, we did that one. The Workhorsemen, Roppongi Vice, Tramparetta, and Rocky Romero versus QT Marshall and Big Boom AJ. I'm probably going to skip that one, to be honest. I love Rocky Romero and Tramparetta and QT Marshall. I'll leave it at that.
I hadn't seen him in so long. I forgot he was still around.
QT's one of the best workers. You talk about that old style of being dependent and being safe and getting a pop and working, like soft. QT's the model citizen of that old school 80s style, but like done today. The four-way match with the Acclaimed, Juice Robinson, Austin Gunn, the Outrunners, Big Bill and Brian Keith. We have the CMML World Trios Championship, Don Callis family, Okada, Takeshita, Hechicero versus Místico, Mascarada Dorada, and Neon. I have a feeling that one of Okada or Takeshita is going to be the reason for the loss, and that you know what I mean. It's
to continue that down the road.
But that'll explain why they don't just immediately crush these three people. Gauntlet match. I believe these are all. Oh no, is it Casino Gauntlet match? I'm reading this weird.
Yep, the winner gets a shot at the world title, and both Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin won their matches last night to start 1 and 2.
I gotcha. And this is Ricochet, Speedball, Kevin Knight, and others TBA. So I don't know.
There'll be some kind of surprise in there.
We have the 4-way. Oh, it's a 4-way tag match for the women's. I love matches like this. They're such a nightmare. The Timeless Love Bombs, Sisters of Sin, Babes of Wrath, and Megan Bain and Maria Shafir.
Yep. Now, in all reality, that should not even be a contest. But,
explain why you think it shouldn't be a contest.
Because I would take Marina Shafir over 3/4 of the male locker room.
That's okay, fair. I would say in kayfabe.
No, I'm not talking about kayfabe. I'm talking.
No, I
know.
Yeah. But Mina and Tony in kayfabe. That's your two. That's like Kurt Angle.
They're great. I mean, hell, even I've told you before. I love Harley Cameron, and Willow is growing on me, but I love Harley Cameron.
I was kind of maybe on the women's division of AEW, and that Blood and Guts made me go, I'm in. I get it.
Yeah,
I'm you know,
we'll talk about that here in a second because I got thoughts on that one as
it's
well.
like maybe some of the creative things that the women are doing may not be for me. You know what I mean? I have to kind of sit back and go, hey, maybe the telenovela stuff isn't for me specifically, but I think like the timeless gimmick is one of the best gimmicks. Like
I love Harley Cameron and the Sasha Banks puppet. That's near and dear to my heart. I
the
love
the takes
yeah,
off the
yeah,
puppet. She got the
yeah,
knuckles.
yeah.
10 on 10. 10 on 10. Hold on, we got a couple more before you talk about your lady fight. Darby versus Pac, which I think might be the hidden gem. It's got a contender to fight with, but I think that might be the standout match. Do you have any thoughts on Darby and Pac?
I agree with you. It's got the chance to either because it's Pac. He's good in the ring. Never been great on the mic, but it's got a chance to be a sleeper match, or it's also depending on what their chemistry is together. It's also got the chance to go. Can we just get this one over with, please?
And hopefully Pac's the type of person to tell Darby, "Hey, brother, we can keep this in the ring. Like
Yeah,
we
he
don't
need as many injuries as he had over his career. He don't need to be taking any
But Darby's
unnecessary.
great without any weapons, without any props. Darby's still good, but I feel like he needs someone to kind of contain him to go, no. We're gonna hold this back a little bit. Speaking of people who need to be contained, John Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly. I feel like is this one of the most obvious match endings of all time? Like,
Well, I
is
mean,
this like
personally,
Hunter versus Hardcore Holly? Like,
well, to see, and I hear you, but I think you people are if they haven't been paying attention, I think they will be surprised. But I do see Kyle tapping him out,
yeah.
and the reason for that is
Oh.
where he continuously has tapped out the past 3-4 times. That's gonna if he taps out again, that's gonna set up the Death Rider turn story.
And Kyle was the person to make him do it in Blood and
Blood and
Guts.
Guts. Yep.
So there's precedent in that. Yeah. No, I hear you. That's
and then Kyle last night Kyle tapped him out again. It was after the match, but Kyle got him in that knee bar again, and after the match was over.
And that if Kyle wins, like you don't really hurt John Moxley at this point. Like Terry Funk can lose to anybody, and he's still Terry Funk. No one really like, come on. But this would shoot Kyle O'Reilly up the ranks from like a B, maybe lower. Maybe we should do that one day, do a tier list. Because Kyle O'Reilly, like he's a great talent, but maybe
Kyle O'Reilly would have
B
done
or
well.
C on the roster.
Yeah, well,
you know
that's what I was
mean?
getting to. Kyle O'Reilly would have benefited in the 70s and 80s because of his ability in the ring, but his lack of ability to cut a promo. To be with a Jim Cornette, Paul Dangerously, Bobby Heenan, Freddie Blassie, the list goes on and on of those managers that was able to get people over that couldn't talk.
Because even in Japan, when they put him in a tag team with gosh, I'm trying to remember the fella's name now. But yeah, they always put them together, and you don't have to cut a promo in Japan because they don't understand your English anyway.
Well,
moving up,
that's what made the Undisputed Era so good was because Cole could talk, and the rest of them could pipe in with something real quick, and then Cole could continue the storytelling with the promo, and it made the group work.
It's like speaking of maybe not being able to do promos, you have Luchasaurus, Jack Perry, and Kenny Omega in a group. Who's cutting their promos? What's going on?
Oh,
Kenny's good.
They'll say something here and there, and then it'll end with "Good night, bang." Blah.
I will say Matt and Nick Jackson are probably better promos than Kenny Omega. I know that sounds weird, but Matt and Nick have a funner energy about them that makes it like a more fun pro. I don't think I can name a single Josh Alexander promo.
No, he's horrible too.
I don't want to say he's bad because I just don't remember. I don't know. I didn't watch
that should tell you all you need to know.
Up next is probably going to be the most memorable match of all of this. Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe.
Yeah.
He is forced to join the Don Callis family. Oh no.
Yep. If Mark loses, he's a. Well, did you see how that came together a couple weeks ago?
No, not yet. Not
when
yet.
Mark was, he went, they had the face off in the back. And of course she's like, thank you, gentlemen, for agreeing to no physicality back here. And they started going back and forth at each other. Mark saying that he wanted one more shot. And Callis was like, all right, we'll give you a shot, but I want something from you. He goes, what do you want? You want me to put my career on the line? If I lose, I got to retire. He's like, no, I wouldn't do that to you. You're an asset to the business. Everybody loves Mark Briscoe. He said, you're part of one of the greatest tag teams of all time. He said, I don't want you to retire. I want you with me, not against me. I mean, so because that's the first place I thought it was going to go, was if he lost, he had to retire. Then Callis come back.
I think we all know where this gimmick's going, because I feel like it just writes itself. You're going to be the bitch. We're going to treat you like the bitch. Yep. Comedically for the week, and then there's going to be after a while there's going to be something that happens where you explode or you get a match, or maybe someone has to fight for your freedom. I remember they do that in TNA. I'm going to fight for his contract. We know where this is going, and there's a lot
story as old as time.
Oh, and you're putting Mark Briscoe potentially with someone in the Don Callis family that's less of a promo than Briscoe. Writes itself.
Yep.
Perfect. Because Kyle Fletcher is not the best promo. He's getting better. So if you have Mark Briscoe with him and next to him, helping him work on stuff, this is it's all the good check boxes. This is all I want to see in wrestling. Because it's a dad and a well, I was gonna say a new guy, but he's been around for 10 years. This might be the match that I ignore. I don't know what it is with FTR, Dax and Cash versus Brody King and Bandito.
I care nothing about this. Nothing.
Can we do a documentary on the downfall of FTR's hype? You go 5 years back. They are one of the hottest things. Everyone's talking about these people. And then it was like, everyone's like, FTR,
I mean, that match they had with Jay White and Juice Robinson on Collision was phenomenal.
They're always good, but it's like, is it the same? Is it like a pop song where everyone's like, this is great, and then 5 years later you're like, Britney Spears really does have the same. Is it like being an AC/DC fan, where I'm not pooping on AC/DC. I love them, but I do love the stereotype. If it's the same album, it's the same sound.
No, and putting them with Stokely hasn't done him any favors. It's like I said, like I've said before, it's not because he's in AEW. He sucked in NXT too. So,
well, up next on this page is a match that has the greatest wrestler who ever lived, like the best, better than anyone you can name, Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander. And I don't want to hear any poo-pooing. She's in fact the greatest. No one is better.
All right,
Vader,
I need you to send me some of them drugs that you're on.
Inoki, nah.
And honestly, I can, I'm glad Chris finally got the belt, but I can see it honestly going either way.
It's tough because they're both really. I can see Chris doing a big baby face. This is going to secure her as the AEW's women's. Because part of me thinks, like, technically Monet with all the belts, can't you view her as the heel outsider? You know what I mean? Like, you're picking on all
she beat Chris twice, defending the TBS title against her. So, it wouldn't make any sense, in my opinion, to have her beat Chris again. But there's also, if you tell the story right, if she beats Chris, of Chris cutting the down in the dumps, I don't know how to beat her. I can beat everybody else.
If this builds to the next show, okay, then I like, if that's what happens, where if she loses and then you can see the story segment start, okay, I'll get into that. The last one is a match I have no interest in, because I swear this is the third time they've run this match. Hangman versus Samoa Joe in a steel cage match.
Well, I know it's the second time. I don't know about the third. It's possible.
Okay, so you could be right on the.
But the only thing he was talking last night. He come out and saved somebody or whatever the hell he did. No, it was the week. It was the week before. They were trying to lower the blood guts cage back down to get, I want to say, Hook or somebody was in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And he got on the mic and said something about, dumbass, if you wanted a cage match with me, all you had to do was ask. And then last night, and then last night when they ended the show the same way. It was Page against Powerhouse Hobbs, and he beat him. And then he got on the mic talking to Joe, saying, you saw the last cage match I was in, and the links I went through and what I'd do. Don't think I won't do it again. And if anybody doesn't know what he's talking about, was the Texas Death Match inside a cage with sort of Strickland, to where he stuck a needle in his mouth. And that's kind of where I drew the line with it and was like, there's no place for that. In my opinion, it's not something I particularly cared for. But, you went through all those matches. The only thing that I can see possibly happening tomorrow night or Saturday night, I can see Edge and Christian making a return to cause FTR to lose to Brodito. I think they need to put those tag team titles on Tony and Mina, just to, why Tony lost the world title, and she's going to help elevate these as the, part of the first women's tag team champions.
And it makes sense for someone who's like on a power grab. Well, if I can't have the belt, what's the next thing down that will give me that? Oh, this, I'll latch right onto it. So I think the women are doing pretty good.
But I'm sitting there, listening to you talk about, and it's not AEW. It's not just AEW. I have not found anything to grab my attention in a while. And it's not about, it's sometimes not about the matches, but John Cena is never going to wrestle a 5-star classic, not in his prime, not now.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff with him and Dom a couple of weeks ago was phenomenal. And then Dom coming out and, getting his rematch. We're getting ready to talk about the Survivor Series, and that won't, trust me, that won't take but a second. To me, that'll be probably the best match of the night. Just because Cena can tell a story, he can sell, and I just from everything I've heard in the back, and even Cena talking as well, I think he wants to take this next to last match and really, really elevate Dominic. It's not the way I would have done it. I would have had Dominic throw a fucking fit to get in the tournament and then have him beat John for his last match and take the title back. That's the way I would have done it. But, they're going to do it this way. And, I don't get paid to make those decisions. So, but like, so that's the way I would have done it. If you're going to do the Dominic John thing and have Dominic not only win the tournament, but then beat John in his final match, take the title back. But regardless, I still think it'll be the match of the night.
Did you hear anything? I know you're on the different side of the wrestling community in a sense. Have you heard anything about Nakamura going to Japan for Tanahashi's last match? Have you heard any rumors, or you know what I mean?
I've heard so many rumors about Nakamura for the past year. Like every time he comes back, I'm like, damn, I thought his contract was expiring.
So this was a controversy that was going around where everybody, so for Tanahashi, they're doing the same thing as John Cena. Who's going to be his final match? Who's going to be the person that retires the career, blah blah blah. So the rumor was Nakamura was going to come back because they had a big feud. Oh, it's definitely going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. And then it turns out, no, Okada is going to do it because they have a partnership with AEW, and Okada and Tanahashi also have a big feud. So the internet was buzzing. Tony Khan killed Nakamura. Tony Khan, control freak. Tony Khan, blah. Turns out Tony Khan's like, I don't know. They asked me. I said yes. Someone went to WWE and asked them, hey, what's going on with Tony Khan killing Nakamura versus Tanahashi? And the person in WWE said, I don't know what you're talking about. No one has ever mentioned this ever before. So New Japan didn't call WWE, you know what I mean? It was one of those, hey, everybody's blaming Tony Khan for something that nobody called anybody for because there's not a partnership. I think that's what New Japan's thought is why try?
I don't know if it's the same. I don't know if it's the same interview that you're talking about, but I've seen excerpts of one that he did not too long ago where I kind of looked at it and was listening. I'm like, damn, did he finally sit down and put his business hat on and take his fan hat off? And because he was talking normal, he wasn't being, like those early press conferences of like, I saw what they did to Jim Crockett, and I got a whole lot more fucking money than the Crockett's did. I don't know if you remember that, but
yeah, he was mouthy a lot more at the beginning.
But in the interview, they asked him about Adam Copeland and John Cena, and he said, "Well, nobody ever called. No, they did not call." And they were like, "Well, how would that have went? Would you have let him go?" He said, "I'd have been open to it." He said, "If we could have worked out something to where it was mutually beneficial," he goes, "Yeah, I'd have let him go."
Dude, it's
he didn't
wrestling.
say what that would have had to have been. He just said if they could have worked out something that was mutually beneficial, he would not have had an issue with.
I would give. This is my pitch, top of my head. I have Tony Khan and Triple H right in front of me. This is my pitch. You make an event called John Cena's Last Match, and you don't. You know what I mean? You
don't banner it.
But yeah, just banner it for John Cena, and then we can bring all these other people in because that's what Ric Flair's last match kind of did. I know it was its own pay-per-view, but they had TNA people, they had Andrade, they had Jay Lethal. You know what I mean? Like, don't gimmick it, WWE, don't gimmick it, AEW. Just say we're making this small little show, and it's going to be John Cena's last match, and we're going to have all these different, like lower the stakes a bit is what I feel like I'm trying to say with some of these things. Like, you don't have to make everything so monumentally huge where it's now a problem. Like,
well, you talk about, with Tony, it reminds me, when Tony's saying, he would have been open to it, but it would need to be mutually beneficial. You talking about Ric Flair, when he went in the Hall of Fame for the second time as a member of the Horsemen, he was under contract to TNA, and WWE had to reach out to TNA. And this is not a knock on Christian, but their flip flop for Ric Flair was, because Dixie Carter thought a lot of Christian Cage. She really liked him. And they were like, yeah, but we want Christian to come back for one night. And I'm like, that's who you asked for? You could have asked for John Cena. You could have asked for Batista. You could have asked for Randy Orton, and they probably would have said no, but at least you asked.
Okay. So, and this is what bugs me about American wrestling culture. People act like there's not a difference, but there is. So these smaller shows that I'm talking about, like the Taiji Shimori one where he's fighting with the AI, there's Dragon Gate people, there's Noah people, there's Stardom people, there's Tokyo Joshi people, there's people from 4 or 5 different companies all over Japan, and they just sort of shrug their shoulders and go, yeah, we're just having a small little get together.
Well, if you go back years in history, every year the NWA and WWF or WWF champion wrestled. Now it was never a finish. It was always a DQ, a count out, time limit draw, something. It was never one going over the other. And what does that do though? If you say, hey, we're having WrestlePalooza, whatever, wrestle whatever. And Hangman Adam Page versus Cody Rhodes or CM Punk, whatever. Pick one of their champions. It's going to have AEW fans watching. It's going to have WWE fans watching. Both products win because you might see something that you wouldn't have seen before. You go back to Super Clashes when the AWA and World Class and Crockett, Mid South, they all got together to put on those big super shows. And they acknowledged other territories back then. Vince was the only one that acted like nobody else existed. They all hats off to this guy's a former Continental champion. This guy's a former Florida heavyweight champion, whatever. And, it sent the little nod after the product without, sending them money or whatever. And I mean, that's what those guys did. They went from territory to territory to territory. And, Triple H always, he always talks about the old school stuff and coming up, being trained by Killer Kowalski and watching Flair and Race and all those. So, he's aware of that old school style stuff, but then and I know that he catches a lot of shit that I don't think he should catch because a lot of the decision making is not.
It's all business. It's all TKO stuff.
Yeah. And he's writing the product, but he's handcuffed to a point, so he can't say, "Hey, let's reach out to AEW and bring Edge back for a John Cena match." He might be able to make the suggestion, but the call is not his. And So I don't know. But
Well, okay, so I want to highlight a spot I saw from one of these shows that kind of one, because I think they're amazing, but this was a spot I hadn't seen, but I thought this would be a fun thing for if you were to do a crossover between AEW and WWE. Everybody wants it this big grand scale. Okay, so what they did in this match is they had a 1-versus-1. They ring the bell, the guy throws powder at his opponent, throws powder at the ref, DQ'd. The AI goes, no, I don't want that. I want another match. So they bring out 2 opponents. It's now 2-versus-2. Bell rings, throws powder at the opponent, throws powder at the ref. The AI, again, frustrated, brings out like more. So now it's 3-on-3. They go to throw the powder. The baby faces hold it. They all turn. The ref gets 3 powders in the face. He flips out. It turns into a whole big, like, pantomime comedy act. You're telling me you couldn't do that with, put Orange Cassidy and R-Truth in a match? It doesn't matter who wins, because it's fun, it's entertaining, it can be silly. Who cares?
I don't think the fans nowadays could sit through a 60-minute match. There's some that are, but at least the only thing I'd like to see is a fully healthy Seth Rollins versus a fully healthy Will Ospreay in like a 30-minute time limit draw.
If you made that the main event and then filled the card with stupid stuff, I'd be there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I would personally, as an old school fan, I want the 60-minute time limit draw, or at least 45 minutes. But because of the ADHD world we live in, I'll settle for 30 because I know
I want the ADHD. If we're doing a crossover, I want Mr. Iguana versus Luther. You know what I mean? Let's get weird. Let's do fun, stupid things that make maybe one idea makes someone go, hey, there's something there. But you don't have to make everything this grand scale. You can sort of slow it down a bit and have a goofy one-off. It's like when your favorite anime show had a movie and they go, it doesn't count. Yeah, it doesn't count.
Right. We will roll into the Survivor Series real quick. When we were talking about the women with the blood and guts, I don't know whose decision it would be, even though Triple H is the one doing the booking. I don't know how far they will let their women go.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I know performers watch each other. The Office can say they don't watch the other product all they want to. The boys and the girls watch.
They watch everything.
Yeah.
Trust me.
And these women going in to War Games, they saw what them girls over in AEW just did. They saw that. I mean, that they blew the men away. I mean, there's a lot of times you'll hear me say, well, it depends on who you are. No, if you watch those 2 matches and tell me you thought the men were better, then you know what? We ain't got a lot of time.
I know when there's good wrestling, especially for me, it's like music. I feel emotional. You know what I mean? Watching it. By the end of the women's blood and guts, I was drawn in, especially the finish. I was hooked.
I mean, and you saw it happening once they cut the leg off and started throwing them out of the ring. I mean, I called the finish. I said they're going to gang up on somebody, and we're going to have I didn't know exactly how they were going to do it, but as soon as they grabbed a hold of Tony, I'm like, that's how.
The visual of her screaming,
and if you remember, it kind of reminded me of when the Four Horsemen took on the NWO. Mm-hmm. And they had, Kurt Hennig turned and went with the NWO, and they had strapped up McMichael and Benoit to the cage, handcuffed, and they had Flair down there, and they were getting ready to shut the gate on him. And Nash gets on the mic and said, "You better quit, for old Nature Boy here gets it." And Steve McMichael was like, "Fine, we quit, we give up." Mm-hmm. And they rang the bell, and then Hennig grabbed the door and shut it on Flair, which was Flair going out to have plastic surgery to get some of his cuts fixed. Nor here nor there, but that's what it reminded me of. Took it back a little bit. But again, those women put on a hell of a show. And like I said, I know these ladies in WWE watched it. And I don't know if WWE, whether Triple H's decision, somebody over him decision, would let them go that far.
Well, I noticed this observation in the IWC. Now, I don't know if I'm poking a bee's nest while mentioning this, but I noticed that there was a particular side of the internet that said, "Oh, the women's blood and guts. Oh, no, too much. Oh, Muda scale bleeding. Oh, disgusting. Oh, vicious. Oh, the War Games is neutered. The War Games is too watered down. I feel like maybe there's a contradiction, maybe there's some sort of stigma. Like, are you guys mad that it was the women who went blood and guts this time? I just got confused because I'm learning when WWE does it, it's not hardcore enough, but when AEW does it, way too hardcore, way
Well,
too
not, you know, just to be fair, I can't remember, I can't tell you who she was wrestling. I forgot. But when they did that match with Britt Baker on Dynamite, and whoever the hell she was wrestling, and they both, especially Britt, looked like, you know,
They look like Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, it looked like she had been in, you know, the sequel to Carrie or something.
I like doing similes with the men because I don't know. To me, if the men can do it, the women can do it.
And I agree, but that one caught me off guard because I'd never seen it, and I really didn't know how to feel about it. I really didn't know how to feel about it. I'd never seen. I mean, you'd see women get cut here and there.
I'm going to express how I feel about it. Like, anybody can feel it differently. That's fine. If the men can do it, the women can do it. That's fine. But we all have to make the observation that when you see a very pretty woman done up in makeup and the nines and the outfit and the hair, and she looks gorgeous, pissing blood, there's something there that makes you go, uh-oh, no. You know what I mean? Like, it's unsettling, it's unnerving, and to me, that adds to that.
Well, there's a
they're
couple
gorgeous, and they're like Carrie covered in blood.
I will tell you this much, and I won't go into much detail, but or who they were, but there was a couple of them in there that when they were bleeding like that, and they just looked at the camera and grinned, I was like, "Oh, you dirty bitch! Ooh, come here, baby."
There's some like deep down in the basement, unnerving, but like, especially when the blood gets on their teeth, and you're like, nope.
But see, that's kind of where after Britt, and like I said, Britt, I wish I could remember who the hell she was wrestling, but after that match, like I said, I sat down and thought about it. I couldn't really put my finger on how I felt about it. It was the first time I'd seen women actually go that far, and I kind of got to the conclusion that you just did. You know, damn it, they're in the ring, they're getting paid like the men are. If the men can do it, they can do it. You know, so and that's kind of where I left it, but. You know, with the War Games match coming up, you've got one side of Rhea, Charlotte, Alexa Bliss. Rhea, Charlotte, Alexa Bliss.
I thought I pulled it up here.
What? Oh, Io Sky, and now AJ Lee.
Okay.
So you've got 5 women on that side that can really go. And then we get to the other side. We got Asuka and we got Kairi Sane, but then you got Nia Jax and Lash Legend, and Becky Lynch is going to wind up being a part of that team.
I know why Nia Jax is in that match. I can tell you why. It's more of a function than anything else. You need a base.
Oh, you do. But you know,
anytime there's a multi-person match, you need Cesaro, you need Vader, you need Bam Bam, there's going to be her catching girls.
If you watch Monday Night Raw, Maxine Dupree finally beat Becky Lynch for that Intercontinental title. You know, and Maxine, you know, as green as she started out with, the first time I ever saw her in the ring, because they did not start her out in NXT. And the first time I saw her in the ring, I'm like, who in the fuck thought this was a good idea?
No relation to Renee, right?
Huh?
No relation to Renee Dupree?
No, that was when they brought her in was when LA Knight was still doing the whole Max Dupree gimmick. When they first brought him up, and then he went to Triple H after they changed ownership and said, yeah, either let me be me or release me.
And that by the dog.
I will tell you, we'll be done in a minute, puppy. But but like I said, she, you know, you can really tell, and she's another one that's gotten a lot of praise from the people in the back on how hard she's worked. At the end of the match, AJ Lee's music hit, and you know, she never put a hand on Becky. You know, Becky turned around and looked at her, and she just did the little, you know, like she does. And when Becky turned around, Maxine come off the top rope with a crossbody, which kind of surprised me. They let her get beat with a crossbody, but you know, I was happy with it. And so that'll cause Becky to be their 5th member. Yeah. And you know, so like I said, you got a good amount of women in there that know what they're doing, but then you got the refrigerator, and you got Lash Legend, who anyway. Well, like I said, I don't know. You don't know how far. First off, how far some of those women are willing to go, and then you got management. How far will they let them go? Because those women are going to want to go out there knowing the buzz that this blood and guts match just got, and want to be talked about like that too.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see. You got Stephanie against Nikki Bella, which I love Stephanie Vacour, but Nikki Bella, I wish she would.
Nikki Bella is a negative void. If she's like, sometimes I get interested in WWE. If she's on TV, I just actively I can't do.
She come out and helped Stephanie about a month and a half ago, and then she started hanging around Stephanie. I'm like, oh god, they're gonna turn her on Stephanie, and I'm just like, just hurry up and do it and get it over with. Let's move on. Again, you got John Cena against Dominic Mysterio. Is that going to be Okada, Omega in the Tokyo Dome? No, it's not. But they're both going to tell a story, and Dominic will. One of two things is going to happen. Dominic's either going to cheat to win, or he's actually going to get a clean victory over Cena, and Cena will put him over at the end of the match by patting him on the ass, giving him the title, raising his hand. It's going to be one or the other. It's not going to be anything in between.
That's the logical thing to do.
And then the men's War Games match. If you watch War Games last year, this is the same exact babyface team we had last year, minus Cody Rhodes, and add in Sami Zayn last year. That's the only difference. That is the only difference. Because it was the Bloodline last year, and that's where the whole WrestleMania thing came in. If you remember, it was the Bloodline, but they needed one more member to go against Solo's team. And that's when Heyman brought out Punk and the whole, well, you now owe me a favor because I helped you and your boy out. And then last year it was Solo's group with the Gorillas of Destiny, Bronson Reed, and Jacob Fatu. And that's where Bronson Reed broke his ankle, bringing his fat ass off the top of the cage. But see, then on the other side, you got Bronson, you got Braun, you got Logan Paul, you got Drew McIntyre, and then Monday Night Raw was so predictable at the end. It wound up, CM Punk comes out while the four of them are in the ring, and then they're laughing at him going, you're all by yourself. Then the Usos come out, their music hits, and the three of them climb in the ring. They start fighting. Cody's music hit. He runs out. They're getting the better of the heels. And then, of course, here's Brock Lesnar's music hit. I'm like, okay, here's prediction number one. Brock comes out. He destroys everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, suplexing and throwing CM Punk around like a rag doll. And after everybody's out of the ring, he's over there high-fiving Heyman and this, that, and the other. And then here comes Roman. Roman's music hits. He comes out, and they have their little face-off, and then Brock goes to hit him. He ducks, goes off the rope, hits him with a Superman punch, knocks him on his ass out the ring. It goes off. And I'm like, well, that was just fucking predictable. So, again, people think I shit on AEW a lot. It's just, there's nothing.
We shit on everything equally.
There's not a lot that's getting me excited anymore these days.
Yeah. I think that's why I'm so excited about these weird small gimmick shows, because it's just something different. It's something new. I don't know if it's exciting. I feel like it is for me because it's just something different. You know what I mean? So,
well, I wish there was more, independent stuff around here that I could go see. And we used to have a lot of it, but there's just not much around here these days. So, speaking of the better stuff, let's see. Today in pro wrestling history, let me get to the bottom of it. Okay. 47 years ago tonight in the main event in New York City, as WWF champion, Bob Backlund defeated Turncoat High Chief Peter Maivita by countout in Madison Square Garden. Oh, this is a throwback. 25 years ago on Nitro, the WCW tag team titles changed hands as the Perfect Event, Sean Stasiak and Chuck Palumbo defeated Alex Wright and Elix Skipper.
The nightmare period of WCW.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that people probably never heard of. 8 years ago, Roman Reigns defeated The Miz to win the Intercontinental title in Houston. And that was his only run with the IC title. It lasted a little bit over 2 months before losing it back to The Miz. 23 years ago today, an NWA TNA show in Nashville, Tennessee, Jeff Jarrett defeated Ron the Truth Killings to win the NWA championship for the first time.
Oh, the first time. Oh, okay. Interesting.
35 years ago tonight in Jacksonville, Florida, the final Clash of the Champions under the NWA banner took place. Thanksgiving Thunder aired, closing out the era. Let's see who was on this card, because I'm sure I remembered it. The Renegade Warriors, I don't remember who they were, beat the Nasty Boys by DQ. Lex Luger beat the defeated the Motor City Madman. He was a big dude. Don't remember who he was. Tom Zink defeated Brian Lee. Mike Rotunda / Michael Wall Street down the Star Blazer, who was Tim Horner under a mask. Colonel De Beers and DeClerc, excuse me. Colonel DeClerc and Sergeant Kruger defeated Kalula and the Beast. The Big Cat Ernie Ladd beat Brian Armstrong. Brian Pillman defeated Buddy Landell. Sid Vicious beat the Night Stalker, who became the future Atom Bomb. The Freebirds, we were talking about him earlier. Garvin and Hayes defeated the Southern Boys. And the Steiner brothers defeated Magnum Force to retain the U.S. tag titles. And in the main event, Ric Flair defeated Butch Reed, earning the Four Horsemen and NWA Tag Team Championship opportunity at Starrcade. Do you remember what that set up?
No idea. No.
That was the time when the whole Black Scorpion thing was going on.
Oh,
Sting.
no.
Sting.
And I remember they had a magician come out and they would just do a magic trick. And then it was like, well, that was that. Moving on.
And I have heard, I don't remember who the Black Scorpion was supposed to be. I heard it was supposed to be Al Perez at one point. I heard it was supposed to be somebody else. I don't know.
Well, before my time.
Well, so when they went to Starrcade and Doom was defending the titles, it was supposed to be against the Horsemen of Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. Well, Barry Windham made his return as a Horseman that night, and him and Arn faced off with Doom, saying Ric Flair had been injured. And then, of course, Ric Flair later came out and wrestled as the Black Scorpion against Sting. It was real to be the Black Scorpion because, hey, we're not going to let this guy do it. Hey, Rick, can you do this for us? That's kind of the way those things went. 32 years ago today, WCW presented Battle Bowl live from Pensacola, Florida. And, that was awful. That was the downfall of Starrcade. 31 years ago at the Big Egg Wrestling Universe event in Tokyo, Bull Nakano beat Alundra Blaze to win the WWF Women's title.
That was an amazing period for women wrestling. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. 14 years ago at Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden, CM Punk defeated Alberto Del Rio to win the WWE title. And 9 years ago was when Goldberg came back and beat Brock Lesnar in a minute and a half.
That was 9 years ago.
Oh, I was like, who is she? Like, happy 69th birthday to Thea Vidal. Wrestling fans will remember her run in 2006 as Mama Benjamin, the over-the-top mother of Shelton Benjamin on Raw.
Oh, no.
I was like, yeah, I remember that. Happy 48th birthday to WWE referee Dan Engler. Happy 64th birthday to Rick Bassman. He was one of a talent developer behind the scenes for many, many years. And that wraps up. It wasn't a big day in history this time.
Wasn't a long one. That's good.
Oh, so you got anything to add there before we head out of here?
It's like I did in my head, and now I've forgotten it. So I don't know what it could have possibly been.
Well, like we said at the beginning of this show, next week, here in the States anyway, is Turkey Day on Thursday. So we'll be coming to you from on Tuesday. And we might change up the schedule a little bit after that. We got to see, got some things happening. So we might be going to a different night or a different time, depending on what we need to do, or
different format, different guests.
Yeah, same bad time, same bad channel, or maybe not. You never know. And but again, on a somber note for me, like I said, everybody talks about the voice of their childhood being JR and Tony, and that was not mine. That was Bob Caudle and David Crockett or Johnny Weaver being his partner, depending on what show you were actually watching. So we'll go ahead and kick it out of here and a little nod to Bob Caudle. So for Paul, my name's Jason. So long.